angels willing to hold us in their arms. When our worth was stone, our ashes, and we both passed on. Let forever mean forever and carry on.
Good afternoon. I have a bit of a treat for you today. Kind of unexpected, didn't know about it until this morning. So it is what it is, but I think I have some valuable input on this subject. What I'm going to be talking about today, well, it's kind of funny. Monday, obviously, I OPSEC'd myself just a little, not much. Kind of funny, Tuesday morning, I woke up with a message that said, "Don't OPSEC me, bro," out of a joke, because I let everybody know before I even said a word. I done let everybody know. So anyway, I thought that was funny. This morning, I woke up with a message from the head of the security team, and he was more or less saying, why don't you fill people in on how you've got security set up, because it's a pretty unique system. Okay, fair enough. And of course he said, if you can do so without OPSECing us. I think so. I don't think the premise or the theory behind the way I set up security is going to cause a problem by me telling you that theory, telling you the gist of how I've got things set up. I don't think that in any way could cause us a problem. So anyway, it's going to be, I hope, an extremely informal show with everything, all of the systems. I typically tear everything apart. I try to forget everything that I've ever known on a particular subject or system or whatever you want to call it, and I start from the ground up. I will also, at that time, start using bits and pieces of information I've learned over the years to help strengthen in any place that I possibly can. I think you're going to find some of the stuff a little bit interesting. I think you're going to find some of it unusual, actually. That's the whole point. So anyway, let me run through the normal stuff, and then we'll jump right into it, because there is quite a bit of stuff to cover. Let me get through the normal stuff here. Let me get that window up top, and we'll get that out of the way right away. Amazon Associate, we are up to $11.65. Woohoo! So we did go up a little bit. That is awesome. We went up, I think, 64 cents. So that is awesome. Thank you. Thank you to all of those that participate in that. For those that don't know, there's a link in the description of the videos, as well as at thewatchmannews.com at the top right. If you click that link before you do your shopping on Amazon and you make your purchases, it doesn't cost you anything more, and it throws a little bit our way for the sale. So works out well. We also have an Amazon store. The link is in both places, the description and right here on the home page. And it will take you to, obviously, our Amazon store, which is a series of different categories. And within those categories is several different items. It's all items that we recommend, we'll stand behind. So once again, it's the same thing. If you make a purchase out of our Amazon store, it doesn't cost you anything more. Throws a little bit our way for the sale, and it's very, very highly appreciated. One other way that you can support us, if you don't shop Amazon or you just want another way to support us, we have a donate link. You can either go to thewatchmannews.com/donate, or you can just simply go to the website at thewatchmannews.com, and there's a button right there in the middle of the menu. And I think there's a link in the description for our donate link as well. I'm pretty sure. I keep forgetting to look, but I'm pretty sure it's down there. Anyway, I always show this just in case it trips people up a little bit. That will take you to our PayPal donation page. You don't have to have a PayPal account. You can just do it as a guest with a debit or a credit card. But I do point out that it will say up top, transforming disabilities. So, however, it does say purpose, the Watchman News donation. That way you know you're in the right place. So, never required, but always, always appreciated. Okay, that covers that. I tried to get through it as quickly as I could so we could get to the subject at hand. So, I need to have a sip of coffee because that's the rules. Man, I'm telling you, I love coffee. Firstly, let's start out at the very beginning. Okay? There's a lot that I haven't shared with very many people, and I'll probably keep it that way. But there are some things that I had been opening up a little bit more about here recently. So, although our intent, and it is our intent, to bug in, we do have a bug out place to go. Now, I wanted to bring this up because there's something very important when it comes to security. So, I had spoke a little bit Monday about the fact that we are on a team. And with that, I talked a little bit about things when if you're the person that's recruiting or whatnot, a few things you want to look out for. So, there's something else along the timeline. In most cases, at some point, you may have to kick somebody out of the car. So, it's a good idea to minimize your risk before that even happens. We've had to get rid of a couple. Not bad. We've had to get rid of a couple have moved away. Hell, I moved away and then moved back. So, it happens. So, I wanted to bring this aspect of it first. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail of this, but I think this is a very important point to make. But out of our entire group, 2 people have been to the bug out location. That would be myself and the owner of the property, who is obviously a member. There's a reason for that. Watchman, don't you need to all go out there and train in unison and do water polo? No, we don't. I have been out there. I have mapped the place. I have gone over the place with a fine-tooth comb. We've set up spotting locations. We've, done everything that's needed. In a matter of a short briefing, after everybody gets there, everybody will be good to go. And considering that pretty much everybody, well, all of those that work in the security detail, at one point or another will patrol, not an issue. Folks, if the balloon goes up, okay, you're not going to have serious troubles within the first hour or 2 you're out there. Not going to happen. So I wanted just to bring that up, and I don't need to go into any more detail than that, but it's just advice to those individuals that's trying to get something going. Don't take your team out to your bug out location. Not a good move. If you do later on have to remove team members or whatnot, they know where your location is. Not a good idea. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, now moving forward. As you know, I love redundancies and tiers. In fact, you will find that all throughout all of my systems, you will find redundancies and tiers. And often you hear about the redundancies. We all know that. 2 is 1, 1 is none. We all know that. But I don't see a whole lot of folks incorporating tiers. And to me, and by that I mean levels, okay, not like liberal tiers or something. By that I mean levels. So, right off the top, in security, there's tiers, okay? There's not just a security team, that's it. No, there's 3 tiers within that security team. There's a detection team, there's an assessment team, and there's a threat mitigation team. All 3 of those teams operate all the time. All the time. So let's start with the detection team. The detection team consists of both humans and electronic and mechanical devices. So for that, it's not all human. Obviously, you know what a patrol is. That is part of the detection team. Patrols. But there are many devices out there, whether mechanical or electronic, that you can add into your security that will help. They'll help tremendously. Everything from cameras to an audible type of device, hooked up to a tripwire. There's many on the market that you can buy. You can even fashion your own. It's not hard to do. It's really not that hard to do. You can go, like, for instance, you could get one of those cheap, and you can get them real cheap. Hell, the dollar store might have them. They're like window. It's for like a window alarm. Essentially, what it is you have a device that's got a loud, like, piezo buzzer in it, and there's another part that's just got a magnet in it. There's a reed switch in the part that's got the buzzer, and then there's another side that's got just a magnet on it. That side that's got the magnet on it, you put on the part of the window that goes up and down. The other part you actually put to the windowsill, right to the side of it. And what happens is when you raise your window, that magnet moves away from that reed switch, and that reed switch makes contact. Okay? Actually, it breaks contact. That reed switch breaks contact, which actually sets off the alarm. Okay? You can real simply take a device like that and take, say, a piece of electrical tape and tape. Now, you don't want to go all the way around. That would be crazy. You don't want to go all the way around. You just want to cover 3 sides of it. And that way, what you're doing is you're just barely holding that magnet up against where that reed switch is, and you put a tripwire, okay, in the screw hole of the magnet piece. And when somebody walks through that tripwire, obviously it pulls the magnet away because that tape's not going to hold it very well. It's going to pull the magnet away, and that alarm's going to go off. So just kind of to give you an idea of a really, really inexpensive electronic device that you could set up with a tripwire, there you go. It's not rocket science, folks. And we do have several of those in our setups, not a whole lot. We do have several motion type detectors, and we're going to talk about that. I guess we can go ahead and talk about that now. So anyway, we incorporate anything from tripwires to motion detection to cameras. Okay? I want to speak about the cameras for a second. This is an area that I don't think a lot of people doing this really consider. A lot of cameras out there, they have built-in infrared emitters, okay? The problem is if you've got a device that sees infrared light, like night vision, it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. You don't want that. That makes your security a vulnerability. So if you want to add cameras into your security, you want to add the ones that do not have infrared emitters. Well, how am I going to see at night, Watchman? I didn't say you don't want infrared emitters. I said you don't want them in your camera. Okay? So what you do from there is you use infrared lights, and you can buy them pre-built. You can build them yourself. We've got both. I've built some. I bought some pre-built. And what you do, in our instance, what we do is we have, for each camera, we have 3 lights. Now, they're infrared, so if you don't have a device that can see infrared light, you're not going to see anything. But what we do is we have one that's at pretty low level as far as the output, and then we have 2 others that are actual floodlights that will light up a nice large area. The one that is, puts out a low level of light, it would stay on all the time. Okay? The other ones are manually controlled. So the idea behind that is you get your light, your infrared light source, away from your camera. That way, if somebody is using some type of infrared device to see in the dark with, they're not seeing your actual camera location. They're seeing just one of your lights. Okay? Chances are 9 out of 10, if this situation occurs and that individual is trying to breach your security, they're going to take out that low level light. Well, guess what? They didn't take out the camera, and now you know they are there. Just food for thought. Motion sensors are obvious how they function. You've got the type that will actually pick up the movement of a mass, I should say. I don't want to say just a human body, because unfortunately they'll pick up deer and all kinds of other stuff too. But then you also have a photoelectric type of device, which is similar in a sense to the same idea behind a tripwire. In other words, they have to actually walk through the beam. But those are handy as well. So that's just giving you an idea of the different types of devices that you can use in your threat detection team. It doesn't have to be all humans. It can also be electronic, mechanical type of devices to be able to alert you of the presence of someone. Okay. Threat assessment team. What's that? If you've got the people that detect, and obviously you've got people that attack, then what is the assessment team? Well, here's the thing. The people that are on the ground patrolling, which is part of your detection team, isn't necessarily going to know everything that's going on, especially in a stress situation. Okay? If somebody detects somebody or whatever, those men or women that are in that area that there was something detected or someone detected, okay, they're going to be focusing on that. Now, the people that the threat mitigation team, okay, they as well are going to be focusing on any known threats. What happens if whoever it is that's trying to breach your security has a 1-2 punch? Everybody's looking in one spot, and they sneak in another. That's why you have a threat assessment team. What that threat assessment team is, security. Imagine security at a mall or store. Somebody that's watching the camera system, somebody that's kind of trying to keep an eye on the hole, so to speak. Right? So if, let's take a mall for instance. If somebody needs to be detained or whatever the case may be in a mall, security sees something on their camera system, so then they send a security guard to go detain an individual that did something that they seen on that camera. Okay? That security team is still in place to look for anything else. if you follow what I'm saying. That is what a threat assessment team does. They keep an eye on the big picture at all times. And that way, not only can you deal with one threat, but you can deal with multiple threats at one time. That's why it's important to have that designation. And then, of course, you've got your threat mitigation team. That's exactly what it sounds like. Somebody to disable the threat. Now, why aren't these all lumped in together? Well, by letting these three groups work independently, not only is it more efficient, but it's also more effective. So again, if you've got multiple threats, you can deal with it expeditiously. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait until these folks are done over here before they can go address something over there. You can do both at the same time. So here's the thing. This only works if you've got enough people to do it. However, when there is an alert, everybody goes into alert status. Everybody. Those that are on their shift and those that are not. Everybody. That way, you've got waves of people that you can use if need be. If it's a small threat, hey, not a big deal. Deal with it quickly. Case closed. If it's a larger threat, if it's a group attacking you, you may need that backup. So it's important that at all times you have that entire group ready. And I don't mean battle ready all the time, every breathing moment. No. When there is a threat, when there is a threat detected, if you have everybody become, if you want to call it, battle ready at that moment, you're going to be as secure as what your team can possibly get yourself. That's all there is to it. I mean, you can't overcome everything. You just can't. You know, if you've got the UN military moving in on your bug out location, you're pretty screwed. You're pretty hosed, I'm telling you. Right? But if it's a band of marauders or whatever the case may be, see, that's an area where I differ of opinion a little bit with Prepper Nurse 1. He kind of thinks that just like for him, for his location where he's at, that he's not really going to have to worry about other individuals. See, I would call that a foolish notion. Very foolish notion. You have to plan for the worst. Plain and simple. Because if you don't, all you have to do is have something happen a little bit more than what you planned for, and you're going to be in trouble. So you have to plan for the worst. And I do absolutely believe that even if an individual is out in the sticks a good ways, they're going to have visitors. They're absolutely going to have visitors. When people see the chaos that happens in the cities and even many smaller towns, they're going to want to get out of Dodge. And the more out of Dodge they can get, the better. And that's the way a lot of people are going to think. You know, it's human nature to get away from the threat. And even more so when somebody is traumatized. If you happen to be in a city when the balloon went up, I'm just throwing a hypothetical out there, and you had to witness just melee after melee, I mean just indescribable things. You probably aren't going to be, if you're not a prepper, if you're not prepper minded, you're not going to be thinking about the critical things like food and water and shelter and all. You're just going to want to get away from people. That's going to be your basic primal instinct, is to get away from people. So to say that I live way out here in the sticks, I don't think I'll ever see anybody from the city, that's pretty foolish thinking. You will. There are going to be a lot of individuals that wind up in some very odd places. Not because that's where they were headed, but because they wanted to get away from people. And they didn't put any thought into what was going on, what they needed, that's just the way it is. That's human nature. So those are things that have to be looked at. Now, that subject that I just talked about brings up another good point when it comes to security. Not every breach of security is a Rambo style event. It's just not. What happens when you run into that person? Well, they run into you. That is just trying to get away from people. Okay? That's it. They're scared. They're confused. They had to witness horrible events, and they're just trying to get away from people. Don't cause them any harm. No need for it. Send them on their way. If you can help them, help them. If you can. If they're extremely close to your bug out location, I wouldn't offer anything. Maybe some water, at most. But send them on their way. And all you have to do is tell them, look, this is a secured location. No trespassing, off limits. You can't go past this point. You don't have to be a jackass about it. You don't have to... Here's the thing. Karma's a bitch. Okay? And if you're a complete jackass to somebody that just wandered up on your location, you don't know what the future brings. That person may wander off and wind up hooking up with a group of individuals, other survivors. And it may wind up being some, crazy ass gang before it's all said and done, and they may come back and pay you a visit. Stuff to think about. We reap what we sow. So we want to be careful with what we reap. You don't have to let everybody in to your area of operation. At the same time, you don't have to be a jerk to everybody that wanders into it. Discernment. You kind of have to use a lot of discernment. These are important things. You don't want to intentionally make enemies. It's not a good idea. Especially when it's right around your area of operations. That would be extremely dumb. I'm trying to think of other areas. I mean, there's, of course, a lot when it comes to security. There's a lot when it comes to different types of tactics. And those aren't my fields. If you want to learn how to, be Rambo, I'm not the guy. I'm just not the guy. All I do is set up systems, organize systems. That's my end of it. I'm not out there crawling in the dirt with an M16 and a knife in my mouth, playing Rambo. Not my job. Not that it would never be my job. Not that I'm not interested in learning. Not that I don't know anything. I'm saying that that's not an area that I need to be a teacher because it's not an area that I'm proficient. But I can advise on how to set up security, how to respond to threats, and how to set up systems with fail-safes that hopefully will never, ever, ever let you down. One thing I will add to this is do not 100% always rely on some type of a mechanical device or electronic detection. Don't do it. Absolutely do not do that. Make sure you've got roaming, whatever word you want to use. Make sure you've got patrols, human beings, patrolling. I do, there is another sensor that I was going to let you know about. Each one of our cameras are set up, like I told you, we have 3 different infrared lights, okay? There's a motion sensor. There's also an audio sensor. I almost forgot. Let me have a vape real quick. The idea behind that is that you want as many sensory inputs as possible, okay? Not only that, but the cameras that were chosen, they've got microphones on them. They don't have the infrared on them, but they do have microphones. But to be real honest, the microphones on them I thought kind of sucked. So we went with a high sensitivity microphone, and that will also allow you, obviously, to listen. That amount of intel could deem very important. And I would say, if you have a sensor that goes off, for instance, and you see an approaching possible threat, listen. Listen. They may be giving out valuable information and speaking to one another. Could be incredibly valuable information. Try not to have knee-jerk reaction with everything. You know, again, this is kind of part of why there's an assessment team. That way, everything's not just reaction. There's a little more planning involved. You don't want to just react. You want to plan your reaction. So that is also part of the assessment team, is to listen. If they've got 1 or more sensors picking something up in one area, that's what they do. They watch cameras and they listen. They also start getting teams ready. Because you've got your patrols out there, and then you've got essentially your threat mitigation team. They're not patrolling, but they are basically standby. They're ready to go at any time. And you want to position them in areas to where they can get anywhere around your perimeter within about an equal amount of time. Okay? And you don't just want, okay, let's say you've got your perimeter. You don't just want to have one area where they all hang out together. Okay? You want to have multiple areas. That way, you have some individuals that can respond a little quicker. Hopefully, by the time that your first threat mitigation team arrives on scene of a threat, hopefully you can have enough intel by that time to know whether or not you can have them hold off and stand back until others get there. In other words, if it's just, the threat of a single person or maybe a couple of people, and just one of your threat mitigation teams is able to handle that, then that's one thing. But if it turns out to be 10, 12, 15 people, then you might want to have them stand back a little bit and wait until the other teams get there to back them up. So it's just a little bit of food for thought. But that's the importance of having that we'll call it a middleman, but that's the importance of having that threat assessment team to help get a better, bigger picture of what is going on and a better way to address that. That's not always the best job to do of being somebody on patrol, because they may not see the big picture. That's why it's important to throw that other tier in there. Somebody that can put their eyes on a little bit more at one time. So, and, eyes and ears technically. So, I'm trying to make sure I don't OPSEC us with anything, and I don't think I'm even getting close. Trying to think if there's anything else that I can really add. I mean, this gives you a good idea of how to set up your security, which is what my intent was, to try to maybe help you get a good, strong security setup. This is something that I've not seen anywhere else. This type of setup, I've not seen it anywhere else. I haven't seen it in any of the books I've read, which wouldn't have meant nothing anyway, because this security has been set up for, gosh, I mean, it was one of the early on things, so I'm going to say probably 2010-ish is when I came up with the security plan. I've only been reading the books that I'm reading since I've known Jen, so it's not been that long. I haven't seen this set up in any of the books I've read. I haven't seen it anywhere. Nowhere. My intent when I set up a system is I call a lot of things systems, and again I focus on having tiers and redundancies. That's important. But I also try to start from the ground up. I will also use information, knowledge that I've obtained over the years. A good idea is a good idea. But you may miss something if you just go at it from knowing that that's a good idea and not considering anything else. You could miss a lot. Camera systems are a good idea, right? But maybe not such a good idea to have your infrared lighting on the camera, if you know what I mean. Get it away from the camera. That way, if you have somebody that's, like I said, coming at you that can detect that infrared light, instead of attacking your camera, they're just attacking a light. You've got two other lights ready to go when you flip a switch. Okay? And a camera that's still functional. So let them attack that low-level light. Give them a little bit of time to get a little bit closer. You'll be able to hear that with the audio sensors. Once they get close enough, you hit them with the infrared floods. Hopefully your threat mitigation teams are on scene and deal with the threat. So it's really, when you break it down, it's not rocket science. But it's important to have those tiers there so that you can have everything in the right place at the right time. Security is important. And so is, I preach about having a community, not just 6, 8, 10, or 12 people. Man, you put yourself at risk with a small group. A major, major risk. Because all you have to have happen, let's say you've got 12 people in your group. Let's say 2 of them get hurt doing daily tasks, chopping wood, whatever. Let's say another 2 get hurt or killed by an attack. Okay, you started out with 12. You're already down to 8 functional people. Already down to 8 functional people. See how quickly? So I do not recommend small groups at all. at all. I recommend community-sized groups for a reason. You need the manpower. The good thing about the threat assessment crew, by the way, and I'll just throw this out there. You know, there's a lot of individuals that they're concerned about what, you know, maybe they're disabled or whatever the case may be, and they're like, well, what could I possibly do to put in my work? There you go. Threat assessment. They just monitor. They monitor and they follow a procedure on how to deal with the threat. They're not the ones that actually deal with it. The importance, another importance behind that is that your threat assessment team never gives up their location, which is important. Highly important. You do not want the individuals with the eyes giving up their location because you don't want your eyes poked out. So there's rhyme and reason for everything the way I set it up. And I probably missed 1,000,000 points in all of this. But I wanted to at least give you a basis behind a good, strong security. Whether it be your bug out location or whether it be your home if you're bugging in. Hopefully that enlightened you on some different areas. You know, again, our plan is to bug in. Not by ourselves. Not just Jen and I. No. Not even close. And I can't really go into detail what the plan is because that is OPSECing myself pretty heavily. But I can say that the intent, the original intent is to bug in. And if that's not going to be a possibility, then of course we'll have to bug out. So that's just an eventuality. It depends on the situation. I would highly recommend that folks that intend on bugging in, that they have a good solid bug out plan as well. And I've already talked about that in the past in depth. You know, those that plan on bugging in, even more so, need a bug out bag and a bug out plan. Because if you're already intending on bugging in, then you likely don't have another location where you have a large amount of stores set up. Okay? If you plan on bugging in and you don't have a bug out location prearranged, I would suggest putting out caches in different locations where they'll be safe. Caches of food, whatever you feel is best. Make sure you put food, make sure you put ammunition, medical supplies, the things that you're going to need. Definitely, if your intent is to bug in, be prepared to bug out. But anyway, I think that pretty well covers, you know, what I was wanting to talk about. I'm sure I'll be catching a bunch of crap for things I've missed. But that is what it is. Don't be surprised if we don't have a lot more of these discussions in the future, because I'm sure that now that a little bit of the cat's out of the bag, you know, there's many other areas that I think I can help with helping people set up, or, you know, not just secure, but pretty much every area I broke down to nothing and rebuilt it from the ground up. So I would say in the near future, probably look forward to a lot more content on these different systems. So if I can help, I will. If I can help, I will. I think time is getting short. I truly, truly do. Anyway, let me go ahead and get to some headlines, and I'll read you the headlines. There are quite a few of those today. I do have to have the contractual sip of coffee. I am telling you. Okay. And this is from last night, by the way. U.S. praises sanctions for killing Iran's economy, then blames Tehran for people suffering. Russia, racism, recession. Trump says Democrats hope for economic bust to hurt him in 2020. Well, I'm sure that's true, but you know what? Our economy's screwed, period, right? And it's not Trump's fault. He didn't do it. He sure in the hell ain't helping it too much, but to be honest, to be just totally honest with you, I don't think there's anything anybody could do to save the economy. I mean, it's just been so far screwed for so long. You know, it's not his fault. It's not his doing. My only frustration is he could be honest with the people instead of trying to bullshit them into thinking, oh, the economy's great. You know, that's my only complaint. You know, be honest with the people. If you want to fix a problem, then people have to know about the problem. Let's see. State Department approves $8 billion sale of F-16 to Taiwan despite Beijing's warning of consequences. Another one of those areas we probably want to keep an eye on. Trump cancels meeting with Danish Prime Minister after she refuses to discuss selling Greenland. Kind of a douche move, wasn't it? Australia joins U.S.-led anti-Iran flotilla in the name of national security and economic interests. I'm telling you, if I was countries, I would stay away from that, as far away from that as possible. Blacklist and manipulation. Pardon me. This is from this morning, by the way. Researcher fights back against Google, Clinton, and U.S. election hijacking. Trump calls Jews who vote Democrat uninformed or disloyal. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Tehran's tanker freed by Gibraltar leased to Iranian shipping company, says the media. Live or die moment for Huawei, founder says as company in battle mode against U.S. sanctions. Profit before safety, Walmart sues Tesla, claims solar panels caused fires at several stores. Not to be sniffed at, Mexico City judge approves limited recreational cocaine use. Can't make it up. And you're welcome, Sandy. I just seen what you said. You're welcome. Yeah, there is that. Trump accused of insulting Danish queen by canceling trip over Greenland snub. China threatens sanctions against U.S. firms involved in F-16 fighter jet sale to Taiwan. Ongoing Hong Kong protests taking toll on city's economy, says Bank of East Asia. Video of Huawei's executive's arrest in Canada released as extradition hearings draw closer. Now, of course, she was arrested quite some time ago. Should Denmark buy U.S. instead? Some say it's a great idea. I thought it was a funny idea. Fat cast bosses earn 117 times more than average UK worker despite pay cut, says a report. And people wonder why, you've got the yellow vests out there and all of that. Pretty good idea why. We've got the same problem here in the U.S. The exact same problem. The gap in between the like your CEOs and your corporate people and your average everyday Joe or Jane, it's huge. And that gap is getting wider and wider and wider. The middle class is all but gone. Middle class is all but gone. And they've got, the average everyday Joe begging to get rid of the rest of the middle class. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy what I see going on. Let's see. U.S. military MQ-9 drone downed over Yemen. Iran president warns attempts to bring Tehran's oil exports to zero will jeopardize Gulf navigation. In other words, they'll shut down the Strait of Hormuz if they do that. Danish Prime Minister urges closer ties with U.S. and Greenland due to Arctic development. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the Arctic. A lot of it involves like Russia and their gas lines, and I do believe that they're looking into doing more drilling up in the Arctic and stuff like that. So, you know, I don't think they're up to no good. I think they're just up to get fuel, you know, energy. That's it. But nonetheless, I mean, good security is a good idea, always a good idea. But, man, I'll tell you what, I don't see a lot of countries, you know, going to be willing to work with the U.S. with everything that's going on, the way they're being treated. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, that was one of the things about WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, when all of what they call those cables, when those cables came out and they were released, you know, some of the stuff that our diplomats was saying about other world leaders and stuff like that was just insane. Absolutely insane. The stuff that our representatives were saying about them. And, you know, the difference between then and now is now we have a government administration that just says it right out in the open. You know, that's not any better. That's certainly not any better. I just don't get it. Let's see. Senate moves bill with up to... Oh, this is insane. Senate moves bill with up to $15,000 fines for sharing memes online. Yeah, that's no joke. We'll be playing a Gun Gripes video after a bit that will be talking about this, and it's very reminiscent of what they did over across the pond, okay, with copyright laws and stuff like that, and it's crazy. If you followed that, we talked about that when that was going on, and yeah, and I told you, by the way, if you remember, I told you to watch because it would be coming here, and look at what we're there. We're there. So, we'll see what happens with it. I'm telling you, they are doing everything they can to censor. MSM hurls fake anti-Semitism charge at Trump rather than question his real loyalty to Israel. I would agree. You know, that's like I continue seeing some liberals really trying to go after this Russian collusion thing that doesn't exist. And it's like all of the points that you could hammer him on, all of the, you know, different truthful things that you could be talking about to cause harm to his campaign or whatnot, you're not. You keep beating on this Russian collusion thing that never happened. Doesn't make any sense. Let's see. We won't be steamrolled. Ireland's, wow, I can't even talk. Ireland's deputy prime minister rules out bilateral talks with the UK. All in vain. This is kind of freaky. All in vain. New blood test can predict if you'll die in next 5 to 10 years. That's kind of crazy. Now, I'm sure they don't mean like getting hit by a truck or something like that. They're talking about, you know, some type of disease or whatnot. But that's still pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Trump says Fed biggest problem for U.S. economy, calls Powell a golfer who can't putt. Higher tariffs and currency devaluation don't solve trade disputes, the IMF warns U.S. and China. U.S. to allow indefinite detention for migrant children following rule change. A lot of hell's being raised over that one. Alaska for Greenland. Former Belgian Prime Minister proposes exchange as Danish explorer was there first. I mean, is this getting out of control or what? Let's see. Timing of U.S. missile test shows it was in development long before Washington left the INF treaty, says Putin. Trump says, I am the chosen one to take on China. This is disgusting. Oral sex with 6-year-old, ? Australian book about transgender kids shocks social media. Now, apparently, this book has been on the shelf since like 2014. The book is not new, but apparently now it is garnering attention. So it's, I mean, it's just, what do you say to that? What do you say to that? Did The Simpsons really predict Trump would try to buy Greenland? Well, apparently not. You read the article, it's not really how things shook out. It wasn't Greenland and it wasn't Trump. So I think they're a little off on this one, on this claim. But, you know, it is what it is. You're going to have people that, I guess, wait, maybe, I didn't even think about this. It could have been the Mandela effect, right? Could have been the Mandela effect. Britain's housing crisis, homeless kids forced to live in shipping containers, says a report. That's crazy. It is crazy. Why cannot these countries, including the United States, take care of their people? They've got plenty of money to blow. They got plenty of money to go kill other people in other countries with. Why can't they try to get their own country on track? It's crazy. I'm not a bleeding heart liberal. Not even close. But none of this makes any sense. Doesn't make any sense. She blew me off. Trump lashes out at nasty, quote unquote nasty, Danish Prime Minister over refusal to sell Greenland. See what I mean? It's like we've got a child in the White House. Let's see. 2 American servicemen killed in Afghanistan, says NATO. Iraqi paramilitary force accuses U.S. and Israel of military base attacks. Russia disappointed by U.S. missile testing, which aggravates global security situation, says Putin. Macron says current system of taxing tech giants unfair, including on U.S. workers. So hopefully there's going to be some improvements with that in the near future. Okay, well, that is headlines. Let me go ahead and wrap up the monologue. We've got a ton of good content today to bring your way. So for those here for the live show, stick around. Don't go anywhere. Don't do anything. We'll be live until 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be joining up with Prepper Nurse 1 at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time and restreaming his broadcast. And for those that just watched the monologue, or if you're watching the recording later on, thank you very much. As always, God bless you. We love you, and be one with your spirit.